I finally have an update on my brain. And don't worry, it's good news. So for those who don't know, I spent the past 5 days in the hospital getting a video EEG study done, which is essentially a test where they attach a bunch of wires to your brain so they could track your brain waves, while you also have video cameras on you watching you 24/7. And while it really sucked having zero privacy for a week, we learned a lot about my brain. For some context, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with focal epilepsy in my temporal lobes by my original neurologist based off of an EEG study. But with the way that my old neurologist did these EEG studies, I would go to his office during the day, have my own private room, they'd attach the equipment to me, and then I'd take it home with me at night and then go back the next day. I would only be there for at most 2 to 3 days at a time. And because it was an office setting, I was always on my medication for every EEG I had done, except for the first EEG when we didn't know if I had epilepsy or not. Trust me, this is relevant to the story. When I was seeing my old neurologist, he put me on Lamictal based on the fact that I had focal epilepsy, which apparently it's better for focal epilepsy. And then when that was not working, he also put me on Keppra, and I was still unfortunately having seizures. And then eventually I lost my health insurance. Jump to now, I'm seeing my current neurologist, and he works in an epilepsy center inside of a hospital. When he looked at my medical records, he saw that I was on 2 different epilepsy medications and they weren't working. I was still having all this activity in my brain, and I was still having seizures. Based off of my medical records with my old neurologist, my current neurologist said that I most likely have refractory epilepsy, meaning that medication does not work for it. Unfortunately, with refractory epilepsy, one of your only options is to have brain surgery, which is why I've been getting all this testing done and why I made the video announcing that I most likely need brain surgery this year. Jump to this week, I was in the hospital that he works at getting this video EEG study done. And since he works in the hospital, he was able to actually come to me every morning and give me updates based off of what their findings were. And what we found out is that my brain is weird. So basically, I've never had a seizure actually caught on an EEG study. But the reason why I was able to be diagnosed with epilepsy is because when you have epilepsy, you get these spikes of sharp waves in the part of your brain that the epileptic activity is in, showing that it is irritable and has hyperexcitability, meaning that you're prone to having seizures there. When I saw my original neurologist, it would only happen in one part of my brain at a time. So that's how he diagnosed me with focal epilepsy, meaning that you only have seizures in one part of your brain at a time. My neurologist said that on the first day of the study, the spikes of activity were occurring in one side of my brain and ping-ponging to the other side, and they were just going back and forth from one side of the brain to the other, which would indicate that I do have focal epilepsy. But after day 1, he took me off my medication. Since I was in a hospital setting, I was being monitored 24/7, so I was able to be off it. And that's when things got weird. The next few days of the study, my brain started to kind of synchronize, and the activity started to happen on both sides of the brain, and it would spike together at the same time, which would mean that I would not have focal epilepsy, I would have generalized epilepsy, meaning that I have seizures on both sides of my brain at one time, which was weird because I was originally diagnosed with focal epilepsy. By the end of the week, the activity was happening on both sides simultaneously and spiking really, really high. So, yesterday, my neurologist came to me and said, I am confident that you actually have generalized epilepsy, not focal epilepsy, so I was misdiagnosed by my first neurologist. So what does this mean? Well, one, since the seizures are happening on both sides of the brain and not on one side of the brain, that means we've been looking at my seizures the wrong way. He said that I have most likely been having tonic-clonic or grand mal seizures, you know, the stereotypical seizures that you see in movies, the ones that I thought I wasn't having, and that they just were not witnessed by anybody, or it was happening while I was sleeping, which still would not be witnessed by anybody unless somebody woke up because of it. Now, since I have generalized epilepsy, that means that my treatment plan needs to change. Now, he thinks that it is possible that the reason why my medications were not working with my old neurologist is because Lamictal is better with focal epilepsy compared to generalized epilepsy. It can be used for both, but there is a possibility it won't be as effective with generalized epilepsy. So right now, our current plan is that I will stay on my Keppra, which is meant for both generalized and focal epilepsy, but will be plenty effective for my type of epilepsy. see where it goes. We'll give it some time, see if I stop having seizures, see if it's effective, and then go from there. Now, if it does not work, surgery would still be the route. But don't worry. Instead of having a part of my brain taken out, which is what the original plan most likely would have been, I instead would have a much less invasive surgery where they would just implant a device into my body to stop the seizures from happening in my brain. Recovery time would be a lot quicker, it would be a lot less invasive, and it would be a lot simpler of a surgery. So I guess my news is that I most likely don't need brain surgery, and if I do, it would be a much less invasive surgery that would take a lot less time to recover for, which is a great thing. The only thing that sucks, though, is since I have generalized epilepsy instead of focal epilepsy, it's technically considered to be the more dangerous type of epilepsy. And this also means that I've been having convulsive seizures and have had no idea because nobody's witnessed it. So that's fun. But no matter what, this is a good update. This is good news. And we're just gonna have to see what happens from here on out. I hope this news gives you guys peace the way that it has brought me peace. And I'm super excited to see where we go from here. Hopefully we can get my seizures to stop. And maybe I need to invest in a seizure detection device now because I'm a little nervous that I'm having full-blown seizures without witnesses and I don't know when they happen. So yeah, that's the update. I love you guys. I hope you've been well, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye!